Hey everyone, I wanted to address a topic that I haven't really talked about a whole lot here on the channel, but something that we probably all deal with, is those of us who work in the video production industry, and that is tools. We're very often called upon to fix equipment, and we're usually having to assemble and disassemble stuff on location, so it makes sense to make sure we invest in tools that are going to do the job well and last a long time. And I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time discussing what I found to work really well, what I found to be reliable. Hopefully this is going to be useful to a few of you here as well. So let's dive in and take a look. All right, so I've got quite a few different tools here on my desk, and I want to talk about each one of them in a little bit of detail. So this video is going to be a little bit lengthy, so this might be one of those where you want to grab a drink or a snack or something like that and pop down on the couch and watch on a TV or something like that, but whatever. What I found with buying tools over the years is it usually pays to buy quality tools for anything that you're going to be using more than a few times. And it's one of those buy once, cry once kind of deals. And not only do they last a lot longer, but you also have a better experience using them. Sometimes using cheap tools can actually be dangerous. You know, a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife because you're having to force it. Or you got a screwdriver that doesn't grab a screw very well, it's going to slip out and scratch up the surface that you're working on, or injure you or whatever. And there's a lot of reasons to invest in good quality tools. You're going to have them for the rest of your life. So I want to kind of go over some of the stuff that I've discovered. So I've got a lot of stuff here, but again, I want to cover each one in at least a little bit of detail and provide links for all this stuff. So if you see something here that actually interests you and something you might be able to take advantage of and use, appreciate you using those links in order to purchase. That does help the channel quite an awful lot. So with that, let's kind of dive in and talk about screwdrivers. Screwdriver is one of those tools that we pretty much all have to have, right? And they're very handy for taking equipment apart or, whatever, assembling things. They come into play an awful lot, and I find that I use them on location a lot. And that's in addition to how much I use them at home. I find myself using screwdrivers literally every day for one reason or another. Definitely learned over time that it pays to invest in some good ones. And I'm not in the tank for any particular brand here, but you are going to see a few brands that sort of are popping up a lot more frequently than some others. And that's because I've learned with time that you very often predict the reliability of a tool by the brand that makes it. So you'll see a lot of tools here from a couple of German brands. So we've got Vera. Let's see. Yeah, face that upwards. And then we've got Viha here. I hope I'm saying those right. I don't know anything about German. But these are both phenomenal brands, and they really don't cost that much more than some of the other brands that are out there. Here in the U.S., I've seen a lot of Craftsman over the years, and you see Klein and Milwaukee and some of these other ones. And they're okay tools, but a lot of ways they just don't compare as well to some of these German-made ones. So, hats off to the Germans for doing their screwdrivers right. Kind of talk a little bit about why some of these make a big difference. So first one I want to point out, so this one's a Vera. This is actually part of their stainless steel line, so I'm not doing this correctly. But I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but a lot of their tools, a lot of their screwdrivers, they have these laser etched serrations in the tip, and that makes them actually grab on to the screw a lot better than others. And you'll very often see this demonstration done where you put the screwdriver in there and it stays horizontal, and you can even tip it farther than that and it won't fall out. That's not magnetized, that's just the grip that the driver has on the screw. And when you're trying to work with a screw that's a little bit stubborn, having a good grip like that actually does make a really big difference. It makes sense in a lot of ways to invest in tools that are going to help you do your job in a lot more effective way. Again, these aren't really that much more expensive than some of the American brands. I think in a lot of cases are the same price as like a Klein tool that you might find here in the U.S. I know these are available a lot more easily in Europe than they are here, but you can get these from Amazon and a bunch of other tool places here as well. But I found that these are worth the investment, even though it's not much more of an investment than you might spend on some of the other options that are out there. They make them in a lot of different form factors and sizes, and they have lots of different product lines. Like I say, this is the part of their stainless steel line. That's why you see the blue handle as opposed to more normal green handle that they offer on their kind of standard line. But different drivers for different purposes, and I've found that does make a difference investing in tools that are well made. A lot of care and attention has been put into designing them. So it also makes sense sense in a lot of situations to have a multi-screwdriver. I've got this one from Wiha that I actually like quite a lot. This one's a 5-in-1. They also make some that are a lot more sophisticated than that. Some that have bits in the handles. These other ones that I've kind of shown here from like Wera, this is actually one of those multi-tools, and it stores the bits here in the handle. This one happens to be ratcheting, so if you want to not have to take your hand off the screwdriver as you're turning it, you can use the ratcheting capability of that. And then you come over here to some like this that are actually insulated, and these are safer to use when you're working with electricity, because it's not going to conduct power from the tip into your hand or even up the shaft like you might find on a more typical screwdriver. So if you're going to be doing any sort of work with electricity, then having some of these insulated screwdrivers can make a lot of sense. I find myself using these a lot. Some people actually invest in insulated screwdriver and only use those, and so that they know they'll always be safe. I like to have separate, different tools for different purposes. So, but in addition to that, they also have kits that you can get. So here's an example. This is actually one of my favorite kits. So this one uses bits. Let me kind of move some of these others out of the way. So this comes with a ton of different bits that you can actually use for different types of things. So there you've got your Torx, and then you've got your standard Phillips, as well as the slotted. And this one also has some Posi-Drive as well, and then another page here with more. So more Torx. These are tri-wing over here on this. And then you've got your spanners. Just a lot of options there. And of course, I like the longer bits like this because it's not uncommon that we have to have a driver that reaches down into a hole in a device in order before you can get to the screw. And so a lot of these other ones that have the shorter bits, say like this one, you may not be able to reach some of the screws you need to remove, but having the longer bits allows you to do that. So this is a set that I've actually really liked. It's one that I keep at home. I don't take this one on location with me, but it has come in handy a lot of times. I'll show you another one. This one's from Wiha. This is not a set that you can actually buy. It's something I assembled myself. So this is what they call their Centrofix handle. This thing really grabs onto these bits really well. So if I let's grab just one of these at random here and pop that in there and close that. That is absolutely rock solid. There's no movement whatsoever. It's just as tight and well fixed as a solid screwdriver, one that doesn't use bits. And the Centrofix from Wiha is apparently the best you can get in terms of that. So if you want to have something that has no play in it whatsoever, just very high quality, not going to let you down, that's one way to do it. Of course, these things all operate one with another, so I could use the bits from the Wera with the Wiha handle. And then I've invested in, these are actually bits that were made by Wiha, so I just keep those in a little holder, magnetic holder, and pop those in there. And there you go. Absolutely rock solid, not going anywhere, and going to last a long time. They're just super well made. I also mentioned another brand here. It's a company called Vessel. It's actually Japanese. They make bits. They look like Phillips, but they're technically JIS, but they work incredibly well with Phillips screws. So if you're looking for something that's high precision, you can always invest in those. Vessel is another very high quality brand that I wouldn't hesitate to purchase from whatsoever. And so got some of those in various sizes as well. Like I say, this is not a set you can actually buy. I just bought these bits individually, bought the handle separately, bought the case separately, and assembled that. And that one's kind of my favorite in terms of the quality of the driver and the handle and the tools and whatnot. Of course, these brands make other options. So this is a pretty cool one here. So this is another one of those that has the bits in the handle, but it also extends, so you get a little bit more reach. Obviously, the biggest downside to this one is that you've got this really wide head. So if you have to get a driver down inside of a hole, that's just not going to happen with this particular one. This is Wera's Rapid change or whatever. I forget the exact name, but it's their rapid bit holder, and it does grab onto it fairly well, but not quite as well as the Centrofix from Wiha. So, but yeah, something like this is really handy. This driver would fit really well in my backpack, and I wouldn't have any hesitation with carrying that one with me as well. But I am in the process of assembling a different kit to go in my backpack that uses the Centrofix that I showed you a moment ago and some other bits from Wiha. In a similar vein, wanted to kind of call attention to this. This is something that I discovered by watching YouTube videos. This is the Tool Check Plus from Wera. This is last year's model. They've actually updated a little bit since then, but obviously you get a whole bunch of different bits in one single tool holder, and you got your handle over here, so you can put your bits in. If you need a longer reach, you can slide this out the side, and again it has their rapid holder right there. It's a little bit small, the handle's a little bit small and not super comfortable if you need to press down and work with a lot of force, but this is handy. I keep this thing in my backpack all the time. It's not been a problem flying with it. I've had TSA inspect it, and they're fine with it. No issue there. The other thing that this includes is a little socket wrench that you can use with any of these bits. So it doesn't have to be with the sockets themselves. You can use it with, say, a Phillips bit. It does fit right in there, just like so, and you can get a little more force than you can get with a typical screwdriver handle. So the Tool Check Plus is pretty cool, and I would recommend it. But at the same time, if you're doing a lot of screws where you really need a lot of grip, you probably want a bigger handle. These are standard 1/4 inch bits, and so they will work with any of these other ones, including that Centrofix that I have. And that's one of the reasons that I'm going to be including one of those in my backpack to use with these and other bits. So anyway, pretty cool there. Something that I've actually really loved having, and it's come in handy so many times. So it doesn't look like it's seen a lot of use, but it has. I just tend to try to take care of all my tools. So as we go through all the tools that I have here today, you'll notice that they're all in pretty good shape, because I do make a point of making sure that I do take care of them and don't abuse them, and make sure I clean them after I'm done with them and whatnot. So sometimes having a little stubby screwdriver like this is actually really nice. This is, again, one from Wiha. This one keeps the bits in the top. It comes with Phillips slotted and a couple of Robertson, the square ones there. They have different kits with different types of drivers, so you just kind of pick whichever one you happen to use most, whichever applicable for the equipment you have and wherever you happen to live in the world. I want to mention a couple other specific ones here. I mentioned that these are for use with electricity, so if you have to work inside of pieces of equipment. This is actually more for if you're doing electrical work, like no electrician is available and you need to make a quick repair or something like that. These make a lot of sense. These particular ones are combination slotted and Phillips in one. We use these a lot here in the United States, so a lot of our receptacles and breakers and things like that it looks like a Phillips, but it's actually not. It's a type of screw where you can use a Phillips, you can use a slotted, or you can use a square Robertson, any of the three. But if you want to have the best grip on one, you'd want to use a tool that's specifically made for that, and so that's what these two are, just in two different sizes. So if you do a lot of electrical work, these are absolutely worth investing in. And if you don't get these and you're here in the US, at least get yourself the square Robertson, because they do grip those things a lot better than some of the other alternatives. I would also mention that there is another type of screw out there that's more common outside the U.S. than it is here, but it looks like a Phillips, and I know anybody who follows me here on this channel knows that I use a lot of Blackmagic design equipment, and a lot of people who watch this channel do as well. These look like Phillips here, but they're actually not. They're actually Posi-Drive, and let's see where to... Yeah, there we go. No, sorry, that was my Phillips. There we go. So, yeah, this is a Posi-Drive driver. It looks like a Phillips, but it actually has extra little, I don't even know what you call them, little flutes, I guess, inside there. So instead of just the regular 4, there's actually 8. Just the inner ones are smaller. And having the right screwdriver for the job here just means that you're so much less likely to strip the screw out or have it slip out and injure you or the piece of equipment that you happen to be working on. So, it probably pays to have not just your standard Phillips and slotted and Robertson and Torx, but also Posi-Drive as well, especially if you're outside the U.S. where those are a lot more common. The one other thing that I would say is if you're just now investing in some Hex or Torx bits, just go ahead and get the ones that have the security hole in the center. They don't necessarily cost any more, and they work just fine for regular hardware as well. They don't have to be used for security hardware, but it's certainly nice to have when you encounter one that has the little pin in the center to prevent being removed with your standard tools. So that's kind of what I've done. The direction that I've been moving in the last several years is making sure that anytime I invest in these particular types of bits, that I get the ones that have the security pin hole in the middle. If you're finding that you have to do a lot of work inside of delicate electronics, things like cell phones, tablets, whatever, and you certainly find that a lot of the screws in there are really, really small, and you want to probably get tools that are specifically made for that. I've gotten this one here from Vera. There's another one from Viha that I think that I would really like to have. It's much bigger. Offers a lot more drivers, but something like this, you got a lot of different drivers to choose from, and they're color coded by type. These are super high quality. These are not going to wear out on you. They're going to last you the rest of your life. Yeah, just super well made, super nice. These are easy to use. They have the spinning head on them that moves super easily. So when you're screwing, you're able to put your hand in there, really put some pressure down and spin it without any sort of resistance from the driver itself. Just super nice to have a good set of these small little tools when you're working inside of electronics. So another thing to put on your wish list. All right, so slight change of plans. Originally, this was going to be one super long video, but after we got to editing it, my editor, Paul, and I decided that it's probably better as two separate videos. So we're going to cut this one right here and split the rest up into a separate video that's also being released at the same time. So the two videos will be coming out at the exact same time. So you'll be able to roll from one right into the other, and you'll see a link popping up for that second video here in just a moment. But if you've seen something along the way that you actually like and would like to own for yourself, I really appreciate using the links that are in the video popping up as we go and in the description down below as well. That really does help the channel quite a lot. So please join me for the second half of this video, and then we'll talk about the rest of the tools that I have found handy for doing video production. So we'll see you over there.